Hi, I'm Steve Vinay Gunther, and I've got a workshop coming up in March 2024 in London, and it's on the topic of spirituality and psychotherapy. So I wanted to say a few words about that to introduce you to the workshop and give you an idea what we're going to be doing. It's something I'm very personally interested in. I've been meditating for 50 years actually, and doing psychotherapy for 40 years. So these are two of major interests of mine. And about 25 years ago, I wanted to find a way to bring them together. Actually, before that, I have to say, when I finished my Gestalt training in the 1980s, I wanted to understand how to bring them together. And so I did some postgraduate training in the US in yoga psychotherapy and with a number of Gestalt therapists who had spiritual approaches to their work. And that was very useful for me because I really wanted to understand how do I bring together the spiritual, or the transpersonal, and the psychological, and how do I incorporate that into my Gestalt work. So 25 years ago, I put it together in a workshop and a little model that I use. So the model contains three elements. It's quite simple. So there's experience, there's beliefs or ideas, and then there's practices or actions. So we can look at both spirituality and also psychotherapy through those three lenses. So for instance, in psychotherapy, we talk, certainly in Gestalt and other modalities too, we talk about authenticity. And so authenticity, very important principle, a lot of books and talks about it. We can read about it. In the Gestalt session, what we're doing is we're putting that into practice. How do I be authentic as a therapist? How do I invite you to be authentic? And then the idea is ultimately we're focused on the experience, because the experience of living authentically is the experience of being true to myself and being able to stay true to myself while I'm in relationship. And that experience is very enlivening and often produces a deep sense of connection and contact. So in spirituality, we can look at something like love, unconditional love, let's say, which exists in many spiritual forms as a concept, an idea, a belief. It's beautiful. You hear talks about it. Fantastic. But of course, that just stays theoretical. What we're interested in is how do you apply it? And that's the practice of how do you do unconditional love. And in Buddhism, it might be a practice like metta, or in Christianity, it's a different kind of practice, prayer, or practicing charity. So that's the practice. And then ultimately, of course, what really matters is the experience. And so by being oriented in that direction, by being interested in focusing, by doing practices, hopefully at some point you find that heart-opening experience where you're just able to be present with someone with no expectation. Might just be for a few moments, might be with a child, might be in a relationship, it might be with a stranger though. And there's that amazing experience of unconditional love. Or it might be a more kind of religious or spiritual experience where you experience the universe or God or something and bathed in that light. So these experiences are very transformative, very powerful, often are at the core of the formation of a religion. Someone has a very important spiritual experience. So then what I'm doing is looking at how we can use these three lenses to compare psychotherapy and psychological approaches and spirituality and spiritual approaches. Because what I do in the workshop is I take you into, well, what are your beliefs? What is your spiritual beliefs? And even people who are from the same religion, Christianity or something, will have their own version of the beliefs or beliefs that are important to them. I look at what are your practices, what is it that you actually do to apply those beliefs or principles in your life. And then I'm also interested in your spiritual experiences, because those are things that are very private, often don't get talked about, and in the safe environment of therapy or a workshop like this, you're able to bring them forward and share them with other people. I do this in small groups. I'm also interested in what we call the field in Gestalt, which is the context of spirituality, because we've all got a social and a family context, and even if it's atheism, whatever it is, it shapes us and we react to it or we adopt it. I look at how we might swallow those beliefs and how we might need to chew them over. And finally, I look at religious wounding, what I call religious wounding, which is the experience of trauma in a religious or spiritual context, an organization usually, or an individual. and it might be some form of abuse, or it might just be exclusion or something, and that creates both a psychological kind of trauma and also some kind of wounding on you could say, a spiritual level. So I look at how we apply Gestalt very effectively in working with that, helping someone get through it, and therefore resolving both on an emotional level and in a sense on their spiritual path as well. And then in the workshop, I contrast, we explore a very interesting question of what are both the differences and the similarities between spirituality and psychotherapy. So it's a very exciting workshop. I've found over many years and many workshops around the world, people get a great deal out of it. I love presenting it, and it supports people both in understanding the spirituality more deeply, and then also understanding the interface with psychology, with psychotherapy, and how we can use spirituality to support the therapeutic process, and how we can use the therapeutic process to support spirituality. So if you're around, if you're able to come to the workshop, I welcome you and look forward to meeting you.